cycle through towns or hamlets or villages where there was nothing left. I'm like, what happened here? Why is it so dilapidated? And what happened is with mass agriculture, you have corporations that buy up the small farms, and then you have thousand or multi-thousand acre farms that are being farmed from a central location, if you will, especially with GPS. Farms are bigger and bigger. You don't have any need for these communities anymore. And so these food deserts would be born, if you think about it. You have massive farms. You don't need the small farmers anywhere. And it was really sad because I cycled through these beautiful, idyllic places that were dilapidated. And if there were any houses there, I don't know where people work, but their food source would be the gas station or the convenience store. Like, there's no fresh vegetables here. So our corporate changes, which I know we see around the world, have changed the landscape and inadvertently created food deserts. Yeah.
And as a result of that, I guess you could extrapolate out is we need adequate diversity in the nutrients that we get into our body, just as a farming environment needs adequate diversity of crops. Monocropping is difficult for soil health over a long period of time.
It's
and
very difficult.
Actually, macro is micro. If I don't get adequate diversity from the foods that I eat, then that's compromising my own health as well. Just as lacking adequate diversity in farming practices is not a good long-term.
Exactly. And so now we have to add food back into the soil, right? So, there's a kind of a big conversation among scientists and us practitioners about, well, is the reason we're seeing all these chronic health problems because, food is less nutritious than it was? And there's all kind of arguments around that. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. We've bred plants to be stronger, so we have more diversity in the food supply, but, conversation for another day. But I think as humans understand, I think the key thing that we need to understand, and I talk to practitioners around the world, is we've been teaching people the wrong way about food. And to the point about body part nutrition, what we want to talk to people about is when you eat this food, this is how it works in your body. Like, this is what it's nourishing. And this is why we're eating this food. And I'm going to explain the mechanism to you in very, very simple terms, that eat this. And it's not like eat this because it's good for you, because that's what we've gotten away with. And food labels like, ooh, it's got A, C, D, and E in it. Ask somebody what that means. They haven't a clue, what that really means. And so I think we owe it to the world to say the reason we want to eat cruciferous vegetables is this. And it's not because they're full of fiber. Yes, they are. And they got magnesium and calcium and vitamin C or whatever. Important. But they turn these genes on. And when they do that, this is what it's doing in your body. And so it's like riding a bike. If you change the brand, you change the gearing or whatever, this is what it means to your ride. Or if you start to, you and I love, functional movement. If we move to free weights on an unstable surface, this is how it loads your pelvis, and this is how it, targets your bones. And that's why we're switching to this form of exercise. I do the same with food. And so the next book I'm working on is going to teach people this is how food works in your body. And if you have this challenge, we're going to use this food, that we're going to pour food in this way because it does this. And I think that will make a huge difference to humanity. And along with where we started, the food is a means to connect. It is a means to nourish. It's a means to bring people together who've been in 1,000 different places a day and say, let's just stop, put food in the mouth, honor who grew it and why and what it means. Let's also understand what we're eating and what it does.
My wife's Italian, and in her culture, they literally say food is love. In the family that she grew up in, maybe it wasn't vocalized, but it was an active service. Love is an active service, and I prepare the food. We sit down and we commune, we connect around food.
And that's what a blessing is, right? Food is blessed, or some cultures will say grace or whatever. And it's actually a moment of stillness. Yeah, we're acknowledging it, but it also stops us in our track and says, before you do that, let's take a moment, because we're not taking a moment. So, and I'm guilty of that as well.
And isn't that, when you look at the knock-on effect of that, or the greater effect of that, this whole idea of fight or flight, the sympathetic dominance of the autonomic nervous system, and then there's rest, digest and regenerate on the parasympathetic. So when I stop, you and I are about to have a meal, Amanda, with our families, and we stop and we go, hey guys, let's just show some gratitude for the food we're about to eat and some gratitude for the company we have. We sort of switch to being in that rest, digest, regenerate part of the body. And then the food that we eat, we maximize our ROI via the state that we put ourselves in when we just stop for a moment.
Well, you're switching neurological signals, right? Yeah. One of them is going to activate the vagus nerve, which is integral to the peristalsis, to how the gut works. Whereas the other is like it can shut it down. Like, okay, so now I have digestive issues. You eat when you're stressed, you're going to have a harder time digesting because the wrong part of your nervous system is activated. So, or, it's not quite left, black and white like that, but it's worth thinking about. The people who have digestive issues are often the most stressed people, right?